Hey guys, welcome to my 2026 JW Reads Nonfiction Book of the Year review. This year I am reviewing Common Sense by Thomas Paine. It was published in 1776, so it's now in the public domain. But I'm doing so in celebration of the 250th anniversary of America and also, coincidentally, of this book's publication. So, Common Sense, it's a pamphlet which focuses on opinions and arguments by Paine, who's voicing his dissent with the British monarchy and the late 18th century colonial American government. He's explaining why monarchical government is fundamentally flawed and what those flaws are, and he's really focusing on the possible prosperity of an independent American nation. So, he really makes the point that there's no better time and will never be a better time than 1776 for declaring independence. He responds to King George III's view of the colonies and his public statements that he is past reconciliation by diplomatic means, and just as a whole, the British government's message that they are ready to fight and they are tired of diplomacy, and that, they'll do whatever it takes to keep the American colonies. So, King George III, he totally rejects peaceful compromise, and Paine touches on that. Paine gives his own commentary on King George III's commentary on the state of the colonies and, Britain's view of the colonies. And Paine, he's describing a lot of what he foresees to be the competent future American government. And he hits hard on the transgressions of the tyrannical British rulers, not just King George III, but every British ruler before him. He's strongly arguing for separation from Great Britain. That's the main point. To summarize the content of Common Sense, it's an American call to arms. It appeals to logic, religion, and emotion in order to persuade the American colonists that the only possible path to prosperity was at the time revolution. Thomas Paine, he begins Common Sense by addressing the undoubted privilege of the people to inquire into their violent abuse at the hands of the English king and the English parliament, meaning, taxation without representation, the British soldiers being bunked in American houses, and just the overall view of the British government, about the overall view of the American colonies that the British government held, that, they weren't going to be treated as equal citizens to those living in Britain. Even though they were technically citizens of the British Empire, they were not treated as such. So that's what Paine's really getting at there. He leads into an analysis of the formation of government, specifically with regards to England, because, the formation of England's government is really going to impact the formation of the American government, of the United States government, and also England is the main object here in this pamphlet. That's what Paine is targeting. That's what he's discussing. He's discussing England. He's discussing the future of America, but he's, in the moment, he's discussing England, and the state of its colonies. So, that would be the big reason why he focuses on England. he mentions that the design and end of government is freedom and security. He talks about how England's government is comprised of monarchical tyranny, aristocratic tyranny, and some republican materials in the kings, the lords, and the commons, respectively. That the king is the monarch, and the king is tyrannical. It's, what the king wants is what the king does, not what the people want. Which is how a republic functions, and which is how true government functions. Government which exists, like Paine said, to ensure the freedom and security of the people by doing as the people wish. So it's also aristocratic. The lords, they're not elected. They do what's to their benefit in their House of Parliament, their Chamber of Parliament, excuse me. And then, of course, the Republican materials, the Commons, which, will be implemented into the U.S. government, well, improved and implemented, because the essentials are there. They're just executed very poorly and in coincidence with majority of tyranny, a majority of the government in coincidence with the Republican Chamber of Commons is tyrannical. So he moves to monarchy and hereditary succession, focusing on the religious contradictions, such as in the books of the Bible, like Kings, the books of Samuel. God really makes the case against monarchies, saying that kings are potential idols of the people, and many Christians agree that God is a quote-unquote jealous God, because one of the commandments is that you will have no other God other than God. He is the one and only. So, because of Paine's audience being a majority of, if not all, Christians, he really nails that point, because as a rhetorical tactic. So, he's talking about that, and then he's saying that he makes a real point to say that nothing sets one man so far above all the others except for election, chance, or usurpation, none of which could be passed down hereditarily. So, he makes an even greater case on top of the case against monarchy. He makes a case against monarchical hereditary succession. He's saying that kings are too often the idols of their people. Like I said a moment ago, that's religious, but it's also political. The kings become the idols of their people, becomes the idol of their people, excuse me. And then the patriotism is not always to the state. Sometimes it's then to the king. Which is not good, because then what if the king is acting within his wishes, and then the king has opposition which acts within the people's wishes? If the people have patriotic allegiance to the king, then they might not support the opposition, which would favor the people and the country as a whole, instead of the opposition itself. He quickly establishes, that Britain's control of the colonies is illogical. It has no benefit for the colonists, as England always prioritizes itself and would always prioritize itself. England treated the colonies not as an equal settlement to England, but as an extension of the British Empire, as a ship docking port, as an import and an export, as a trading facility. So, though the citizens of these colonies were British citizens, they were not treated as such, like I already said. So, after a logical progression, Paine starts covering America's ability and potential in the inevitable conflict with Britain, and the appendix touches on the preference for independence over reconciliation, and itself practically disproves that reconciliation is still possible at the time of Paine's publication. And while I was reading this work, I really connected the work to myself. It was particularly relatable because though there was a great generational gap between myself and Paine, as he lived at the time of my forefathers, at our core, we're both Americans. We both believe in the freedom of the people, and while reading Paine's writing from the Revolutionary era, I was really helped in understanding the depth of the reasoning that was provided in support of independence from England. Really helped me realize that this wasn't just like a whim, you know. Somebody didn't wake up one day and say, oh, we should be independent from Britain. I don't like the king or whatever. No, there was real reasoning behind that. There was a true motive, and this helped me understand that. I connected this text to a previous text that I have read, and I'm proud to say a previous text that I have reviewed. If any of my long-time viewers remember, it was probably about this time last year. It was last year. If any of my previous viewers remember, last year my nonfiction 2025 book of the year was Hillbilly Elegy, a Memoir of a Family and Culture in Crisis by Vice President Vance. And I really felt a connection between these two texts because of Vance's commentary on the adversity that he faced growing up impoverished. It was very similar to Paine's commentary on the adversity of the American colonists when they confronted Great Britain's political control. Both commentaries are for the purpose of pointing out great injustices in the society of their time. And then, of course, I connected this text to the world today because it brings to mind the state of America today. Paine's many predictions of the future America mostly came true. Paine said, let assemblies be annual with the president only, the representation more equal, their business wholly domestic and subject to the authority of a continental Congress. In America, the law is king, and no country on the globe is so happily situated or so internally capable of raising a fleet as America, all of which is most certainly true of America today as it was of America during Paine's time of writing this text, during the time in which Paine wrote this text. So a big purpose of Paine was to advance his anti-monarchical sentiment. His pamphlet, it was geared towards the undecided colonists. The rhetoric he employs is meant to bolster resolve for the revolution, and he targets his audience by making religiously motivated and patriotically motivated claims. Those claims have weight with his audience because, like I said, 18th century Westerners were all, if not all, Christians with strong familial, cultural, and social obligations to, if not their country, then their community and their state. But to create an awareness of the very monarchical tyranny against which he was arguing, Paine had to first inform his audience on the fundamental principles of monarchy. And then he follows that, obviously, with informing his audience of what could exist in its place, a republic. So I decided to this year share a topic study with all of you. I found that Paine's Common Sense is very similar to the Federalist Papers, essays of Hamilton, Madison, and Jay, which were instrumental in shaping Paine's more abstract generalizations of government into a clearly structured guide towards America's political future. A strong but limited national government was outlined in order to enact the freedom and security that Paine previously called the objective of government. While Paine presented the argument for the Revolution, the Federalist Papers' authors presented the argument for the Constitution. All of the authors were providing explanations for the United States government, but the Federalists built on Paine's initial explanation. It's only common sense that after reading Common Sense, the next step is the Federalist Papers. So, what are my concluding thoughts and star rating? Well, I was absolutely captivated by the mastery with which Paine weaves his argument. Though it was shorter than my usual reads, only about a little over 150 pages, I still found profound depth in the style of Paine's writing. Common sense opened my eyes to the arguments on which the revolution was founded, and with the 250th anniversary of America coming up in the next few months, July 4th, 2026, for those of you who don't know, I believe it's of the utmost importance that we reflect on the ideals and values that have made America the greatest country in the world in just 250 short years. And I do not doubt that if we adhere to the teachings of notable revolutionaries, we can propel our country to at least another 250 years of greatness. Thank you all for listening to this review, and I would like to give Common Sense a 5 out of 5 stars. So, that's all for today. Let's put a bookmark in it for now, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.